Hello and welcome to another episode of The Third Perspective, where we wield the first before the worst. I'm your host, Rob, and tonight I have with me Byron.
It's a liberal libertarian.
Like that really matters anymore, huh?
Apparently not.
Alright, tonight we wanted to discuss the topic of taxes.
Don't pay them.
I have no desire to, but as we shall see shortly, there are a lot of things where you don't really have the choice. Despite what the government tells you by saying that you don't have choices on paying taxes anyways, we'll talk about the fact that they'll take your stuff.
They took our jobs.
Why are you going with South Park jokes? That didn't even mesh well.
I'm not sure.
All right, so we'll talk about something very interesting. Everybody knows that there's a federal income tax, and what is the rate on that? Do you know?
Not really.
Let's see, I've played federal income tax for years
Wait,
now.
isn't the income tax variable?
Is it?
I thought so. Income tax is based.
Oh, yeah,
income
because we do all this progressive nonsense. We gotta make the rich pay more. Why are we making the rich pay more?
They pay more anyway.
Yeah,
If
I
it's a
mean,
flat
if you
percentage tax.
understood percentages, like the intelligent people claim to be, liberals, they're not, they say they understand math. Well, if you understood math, you would know that if we have a flat tax rate of such and such percent, like, who was it? I think I heard Ron Paul, one of his old things, he advocated a flat tax of 17%.
Wow, kind of steep.
I don't know.
I'd
But,
go 10, but okay.
yeah, you're probably right anyways. I don't really want to pay taxes. But he advocated a flat tax of 17%. I mean, if you're going to tax people, you might as well tax them fairly. And fairly means you
Equally.
tax them a percentage of what they make. Not, oh, you make more than this amount, we're going to tax you a higher percentage. That's not right, and that's not fair. I don't care what anybody says. If you understand basic math, you know that percentages are fair.
But obviously you do not understand basic English.
What do you mean?
Never mind. Keep going.
You're an idiot. All
You
right,
can't
let's
hear
see.
that.
Since we're talking about federal income tax, single filers from $0 to $8,925, although it's kind of interesting that people would claim zero with all the welfare and other stuff. That's all taxable income. Go figure.
Fraud.
You get taxed at a 10% rate. For married, it goes up to $1,785. For joint and then head of household filers is $1,275 or $750. And then let's go just on single filers from now on. $89.25 to $36,250 is 15%. $36,250 to $87,850 is 25%. All the way up to 400 and above pays 39.6%. I don't know when this became the established norm, because I guess most Americans today don't know how to do math.
I would not pay half my check.
This,
to
of
the
course, comes from Forbes.com. The updated 2013 federal income tax brackets and marginal rates. Ay, ay, ay.
So tell me, what's the government doing with all this money?
What's the government doing with all this money?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. They're spending more than they're taking in. So
I have no comment for this.
I think most of it probably go into the pockets of politicians and the pensions of various federal workers.
Wealth redistribution is not constitutional.
Wealth redistribution doesn't even work. I think anybody who thinks that wealth redistribution works should probably go on YouTube and look up Milton Friedman and learn something.
Yeah, just don't communicate with anyone else on YouTube.
All right. We'll move on from there. That's ridiculous tax codes of the federal income tax, which is actually a lot more complicated, but we'll go from there to...
Wait. So, if you're rich and you get taxed more, does that mean you have a greater influence on America?
Well, that's a good question, considering we have what could be described as corporatism or a plutocracy, as most liberals like to say.
And the entitlement state.
Well, see, what's funny is that campaigns are becoming nonprofit organizations, like our president, who was criticizing people for turning their campaign funds into nonprofits, turns his campaign organization into a nonprofit. And what do they do with those? Well, these big corporations that everybody complains about donate money to the campaign fund to lower their tax bracket so they don't have to pay as much in taxes. So our wonderful hypocritical president, who condemned people who did this, is now essentially doing it himself and allowing people to do it themselves. So that answer your question?
I think so.
All right, so what I wanted to do before was go back to state income tax. And state income tax varies from state to state, as you may have guessed. There are, I want to say, 4 states that don't collect income tax. Let's see, Alaska, Florida.
I want to say Oregon, but I'm not sure.
Nevada,
no sales tax.
New Hampshire, South Dakota, Texas, Tennessee, Washington. Oregon has 11% on income over $250,000, as I get all tongue-tied, which I think might actually, well, no, Hawaii has 11% on income over $200,000. So you can see how this gets ridiculous rather quickly in other states.
Yeah.
But, not to be outdone, California just passed an income tax increase to bump our income tax up to 10.55% on all income over $1 million.
Wow.
Most people are like, whatever, I don't make that much. But that doesn't make it right. I mean, you're asking someone else to pay for the services that you receive. And you're not asking at this point. Let's be entirely honest. You were using the force of government to make someone else pay for your goods and services. Not goods, just services. But there you go. I mean, the state of California and many others exemplifies this notion that we have to make other people pay more. And it's just ridiculous.
You know what this reminds me of? Elementary school. Back when, if 2 children did not agree, for some reason one child thought it was a good idea to go and find a teacher or someone who agreed with them and attempt to force the other person to partake in whatever activity they wanted. Sound familiar?
Not really. I don't remember a lot from elementary school. I remember, well, we won't get into too much of elementary school. So, we have this nature that we expect someone else to pay for our services. And what's funny is California is just as bad, if not worse, than the rest of the United States, just borrowing and spending money. We spend money that we don't have. This state is the most in debt.
Really?
You didn't know that?
I don't know. I was kind of expecting New York to be like right up in there too.
Well, it's probably not far behind. I mean, they're both nanny states. They want to dictate the lives of their own citizens. I I don't understand this notion. Of course, what's really funny is they'll say that we don't want to run your life and we think that women should have the right to choose. Uh, a lot of places will push for marijuana legalization. But then when it comes to things like health and what they believe is healthy food, they'll try and dictate your life. Stuff like that, where it's like, how do you go from this to saying we can tell you what to do over here? It's something about politics I'll never understand, because you've got the Democrats on one side saying that women should have the right to choose they what they do with their own body, but you're not allowed to decide what you can put in your own body. Or as they like to call it, pro-choice, but they're not pro-choice on guns because you shouldn't be able to own a gun. Well, not all Democrats think that way, but there are a lot that do, and that's the scary part.
On the pro-gun side, I guess part of Dianne Feinstein's bill got shot down.
Yeah, but that's not the main bill.
Yeah.
I read that from Reason.com today, that yes, her assault weapon ban bill was shot down, which is good news. This isn't the end of the gun control debate.
Magazine limits are still up for...
Well, she wanted to do that in her bill, so I'm happy that it didn't go through in this one. And there's a pretty good chance I could be in trouble with this one some point down the road, because I'm not going to listen to these stupid laws. The more laws you make, the more criminals you create. So
You sounded really redneck just then.
well, that's what happens. Here's a question for you. Who pays into unemployment?
Taxpayers?
No.
Old people? Young people?
Businesses.
What the
Businesses pay into unemployment. Which frustrates me most of all, because now personally dealing with the Employment Development Department, who runs employment insurance, disability insurance, job service, all these wonderful programs. I say that very sarcastically. We make all these employers pay into these programs, and they buy these lavish office buildings and take care of their employees. And then, like now, my dad is struggling just to get his unemployment paid to him. Wonderful system. He's been rejected twice now, and they won't tell him why. Wonderful. But I really think that if we stop forcing businesses to pay into unemployment, that they would have more money to hire more people. I know that's crazy. Oh my God, no, they'll hoard it. They'll save it for themselves. No, if you stop taking their money, they'll want to expand and grow so they can make more money. So many economically illiterate people in the world today that don't understand that businesses want to make more money. And if you're limiting their ability to make more money, you're not going to have jobs because they're not going to be able to grow.
Well, that also helps if you drop minimum wage as well.
Well, that's another debate entirely. And yeah, but everybody's like, minimum wage doesn't cause inflation. Okay, so we should go over like basic price increases. If a business has to pay out more to this individual, that means their cost of doing business goes up, which means to make money they have to raise their prices. And if we do that for everyone, then the truck driver's salary goes up. The grocery employees' salaries go up. Everything goes up. We limit people in their abilities to get jobs. because now we've shrunk the employment market, and they're raising the prices of things like food because they have to pay people more.
You would think there'd be a choke point at some point, or somewhere along the lines.
Well, I don't know if there's a choke point, but we're definitely seeing the effects of a government controlled economy. I mean, the more we exert control over the economy and go, no, this is what we want the economy to do, the more it bucks, and we lose more because we're trying to control something that cannot be controlled.
When I say there's a choke point, like, okay, so you raise minimum wage, and then you raise, cost of services goes up because minimum wage went up. Well, at what point does it get to that what someone makes is no longer, like on a mass scale, is no longer enough to be able to provide for themselves because, minimum wage or unemployment has gone up so much that the companies have raised prices so much on goods that the consumer can no longer afford it on the wages they have because inflation has just exploded.
Well, that's kind of what's going on. I mean, I remember watching Ron Paul from before the election. He was debating some people, and they're like, well, we haven't seen the effects of inflation. And his response was, have you seen the price of a gallon of milk lately? Things are going up in price, and we're trying to artificially lower those prices to keep people able to buy food, but we're still paying for it. The buying power of the dollar has gone down considerably.
Indeed, it has.
Heck, if I were to take those pennies that I have in a can in my room and melt them down, they'd be worth a ton of money, but as pennies, they're worth next to nothing.
That's kind of sad.
But it's illegal for you to melt down those pennies.
Well, who's gonna know?
Well, they're not entirely copper.
Yes, they're not. In fact, I don't think pennies have been made of mostly copper since like the 70s.
Well, I'm not sure about that. But
I remember at one point they were actually completely copper.
Yeah.
And then it apparently started to...
Probably sometime after we got off the gold standard.
Probably, but I remember hearing that at last check, it actually cost something like the equivalent of a nickel to make a penny.
I think it's more than that. I'm not sure.
With inflation, it's probably more than that now.
I want to say we lose millions of dollars a year just minting pennies.
I wouldn't be surprised.
So
last I checked though, which was back in like 2008, I think it was like 5.4 cents per penny.
Yeah, that's still a lot because we print tons of pennies or mint tons of pennies. So we're losing a lot of money. All right, let's see. Oh, that's income tax in California is variable from 1.25 all the way up to the 10.55% over $1 million. And then, of course, there's all kinds of deductions and things that you can do to lower your tax rate. And that's where it gets really screwy, and people don't understand the tax code, which means you pretty much have to use tax services to file your taxes. It's just crazy the amount of tax credits and things that are going on. Instead of having just a simple flat tax, we want to have this massive tax code and have all these different exceptions and all these different things and just completely make it impossible. Even the business code is worse, and I don't even think I have any California business tax stuff up right now. But it's really like, I think, man, I wish I could remember who did the study, but a while back they rated the climate for small businesses around the nation. California got an F. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, don't we overregulate businesses like crazy?
Yeah. Well, Stossel did that. Did his special on illegal everything, and he talked about the girls whose lemonade stands were shut down by the police, and the justification given, if you watch the episode, is that they can't tell what's in the lemonade. They can't say that the lemonade is good, so they have to shut them down because they have to be able to prove that, they're not trying to kill people, I guess is the justification for it. But we're talking about little girls selling lemonade on the side of the road. Don't you take a little bit of risk in everything you do? If I want to buy lemonade from a stand on the side of the road, why is that not my right? Why isn't that between me and the person selling it?
I don't know. This kind of reminds me of the whole thing about Iraq. About the whole point of justifying going into Iraq wasn't that, oh, Saddam has weapons of mass destruction, is we don't know what he has, so let's just go in there and find out.
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
Not entirely. It's basically fear of you don't know what it is, so therefore shut it down. Without finding any proof, rhyme, or reason one way or the other of what's going on.
Yeah, I get where you're going with that. I'm just saying that's a long discussion in and of itself. Other taxes in California. Of course, we have property tax in California is set under Prop 13, which was a proposition passed by the people back in the 70s during the tax revolt, I think is what they call it. We talked about it in my government class, where basically they sent the maximum amount of tax on a house, commercial property, anything is limited to 1% of the cash value, which for all intensive purposes today is at purchase. So 1% of your what your house is worth when you purchase it. And it doesn't change. It always stays that rate. Which kind of messed with some people when the housing bubble popped. At the same time, I mean, people benefit anyways from the Prop 13 because anybody who buys a house after you, for the most part, is paying more in property taxes than you are. And as much as kids in my class railed against Prop 13, it made sense to me. Back in the 70s, they did it because the housing market was expanding at such a fast rate because of the manipulation by central banking, but that's another topic entirely. The market was growing and house prices were going up really, really quickly, and it was going to be that people couldn't afford to pay their property taxes anymore. So they rose up and said, no, we need to stop this. We need to stop it now. At the time, we actually had a budget surplus in California. Go figure. So we had a budget surplus. They pushed this through, and everybody cries that we defunded education because education is paid out of property taxes. But we've kind of found ways around that, and we still fund education. We're funding education at incredible rates, and education value doesn't go up. It's just the price of the education that goes up. And the worst part is property tax is one of the things where you find, one, I have a problem with property tax because it implies that you don't own your property. if you're always paying for your property, do you own your property?
No.
Exactly. I mean, if you're always paying for it, you don't own it. Somebody else owns your property. So we basically said that the state owns all land within the state. You don't own your property, the state owns it. What's worse is if you don't pay your taxes for a set amount of time, California and just about every state out there will seize your property and sell it in a tax sale. So if you thought you owned your home even after continuously paying rent on it, you find out you're wrong and they sell it out from underneath you. So that's property tax to me is horrible. It is one of the worst taxes in existence, and it implies that you don't own anything. It implies that everything you own belongs to somebody else. And I don't like that.
That sounds about right.
You have anything to say on that?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Basically, the state feels that it's entitled to own anything that you have.
Pretty
It
much.
doesn't make any sense to me because isn't the state made out of the people within the state? So you're robbing yourself to provide for your... Yeah, okay.
Well, I love the argument that you're taking from the children. I'm sorry, why are we robbing people to pay for children? Aren't we teaching kids in school today that you shouldn't lie, cheat, hit, steal, shouldn't steal? But what is this tax? What happens if people don't pay this tax? Oh, they steal your home and sell it out from underneath you. Wonderful. We teach our kids one thing and then we do something completely different.
Didn't you know when you were a child that adults are hypocrites?
Yeah. My dad was very fond of the parlance, do as I say, not as I do. Basically, what he said went, and it didn't matter what he did.
Silly.
Not silly, jacked up. It's not a very good form of parenting either.
Not particularly.
So, there's property tax and my kind of rant on how terrible that is. That you don't own your property, government owns your property.
The government ate my baby.
As for other taxes in California, their sales tax is 8.25%. And it can be up to as high as 10.5% in the state of California. Now, Modesto has a 7.375% sales tax. So we're actually lower than what's average for the state. Now, let me Google search Sunnyvale's taxes since that's where you are.
Oh, we get a lot of it from bags.
Oh, that's another ridiculous thing. You can't use, what is it? They're blocking plastic bags. They're making you use paper bags, and they're making you pay a CRV on it.
Yep, 10 cents per bag.
I think that's ridiculous.
Bring your own bags.
Sunnyvale taxes are 8.63%. So you're higher there.
I'm not surprised. It's Sunnyvale.
Way to go, Sunnyvale. All right, so did you have anything else to say on sales tax? I think if any sales tax or a consumption tax makes the most sense to me, because all you're doing is taxing what people buy.
See,
as much as I'm opposed to taxes anyways.
Yeah, like, I can do sales tax. I don't like income tax.
Well, see, what's funny is you'll get taxes on, like here, the cigarette tax, 80 cents on a pack of 20. Now, they say that this tax discourages cigarette smoking. So, does an income tax discourage working?
Yes.
I mean, it's a valid argument, but no one ever wants to discuss it because we have this view today that your money isn't your money. So despite how hard you work for your money, someone else is entitled to it. And I really don't understand that logic. It doesn't make sense.
So, if I make my own money, is it my money?
Well, how did you make your own money?
I weaved it.
We could talk about Bitcoins. I'm sure we could devote an episode to that. And I'd like to go to the Bitcoin 2013 conference if they'll let us go as media. But at $300 a ticket, I really can't afford to do that.
I'm kind of broke.
Yeah, just kinda. But
Just a little bit kind of broke and stuff, and
if we can get media badges to that, we could go cover that and go interview and talk to some people. The guys from Free Talk Live will be there. That'd be pretty fun.
That'd be pimpalicious.
If you all
That's right,
haven't
that's
realized, Byron is black. And he doesn't let his black come out very often, but this is one of those times.
This guy.
What were you going to say?
I forgot.
You forgot.
I'm being black. I don't remember.
Yeah, you're being black. All right, so that's that part of the tax discouragement. We can move from there into the gasoline tax.
No. Don't tax my gasoline.
Well, that's the funny part. We
Ain't
do.
nothing funny about taxing my gasoline. Don't tax my gasoline.
And I was talking to the guys on Free Talk Live about this. Ian looked it up. We've been second in the highest gas tax in the nation. We get taxed. We've been taxed the second highest here in California. We tax 46.6 cents per gallon for the state.
Since when was this a competition of states?
I don't know. That's a pretty good question. But, and the irony here being that gasoline companies are making pennies on your gallon of gas.
No wonder they raised their prices so much.
Well, they're still making pennies. People don't want to see this, but gas companies are making pennies on the gallon. And in the state of California, the state is making 46.6 cents on every gallon. So the state is making more off of that gallon of gas than the company is making off a gallon of gas.
Makes me wonder what would happen if the company actually was making more money off the gallon of gas. They'd probably lower the prices.
Well, if the government wasn't taxing at the rate it was, gas would be lower. Plus, we put other stuff in our gas. MTBE, ethanol, because it's supposed to make the it's supposed to be healthier for the environment. Sorry, MTBE actually is more detrimental to the environment, but that's another thing we don't like to talk about.
I think I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. But as for gas tax, like I was saying, it was 46.6 cents a gallon. Recently, the California State Board of Equalization, thanks to when Arnold was governor, was set up with the sole authority to raise gas prices. So the California State Board of Equalization voted 3-2 October 4th. Wait, no, that's an old picture. February 28th, they voted 3-2 to raise the excise tax 10%.
So the governor done goofed.
Well, it was also the state legislature voted to give them that power, and the governor let it go through.
I also find it hilarious that we still call him the governor.
Yeah. But this is roughly a 3.5 cent increase that the tax will go up, roughly 3.5 cents, which doesn't sound too bad until you realize that we're already paying the second highest gas tax in the nation. Do you know who we were behind?
New York?
Yup, New York. And after July 1st, when this tax goes into effect, we will be at 70.1, the average tax per gallon,
That makes us number one.
which will make us number one.
Does that mean we get a trophy?
I don't think there's a trophy for being the most taxed.
Well, we participated.
California, the state of participants, where everybody's got to get a participation trophy. There are no losers.
I couldn't resist.
But yeah, we'll be the highest gas tax in the nation. What that accomplishes, I don't know.
It makes me not want to
But-
drive anywhere, and therefore not want to go anywhere to spend any money, and
Do you
therefore
remember
make
what
me
the
want
best
to.
part about this is?
What?
Why the gas tax went up?
No. Also, I wasn't done with my rant, but okay.
Where else were you going with it?
Like I say, it also makes it harder for businesses to do anything because now they can't move anything without paying more money for gas. Therefore, transportation gets more expensive. Therefore, the food gets more expensive. And basically, it's a cheap way of making everything more expensive so I can starve to death quicker.
Otherwise known as inflation. We're inflating the prices of everything.
Yes.
So the state can get more money. Because
That doesn't
they
count
still
for
got
as
to
much
truck in all
food.
that food and stuff that you eat and consume. So, yeah.
So they're making more money that is now not valued for as much as it used to be valued, and therefore they're going to try and make even more money. And I'm going to kill myself, I swear.
Well,
Not literally.
back to what I was going to say. You forgot I told you about this when it happened, that part of the reason why they did this was because Californians are buying less gas than they were.
And this is surprising why?
I'm not 100% sure why it's surprising that we've demonized gas and gas companies in this state, and Californians have decided to use less gas, but because of the shortcomings that we are expecting, because Californians are using less gas, we're going to raise gas taxes.
So that way we can use even less gas. What happens if we develop a car that runs on water? Or better yet, one that just runs on air? Are you going to tax air? How can you tax air? What about the air that I breathe?
You don't remember the Oregon representative that proposed a tax on carbon dioxide while bicycling?
No, but I remember one that proposed a tax on methane that came out of cows.
They actually do that somewhere. They have a contraption that measures the amount of methane that comes out of a cow's ass and then average it for the whole herd. And then they have to pay that amount because they're trying to cut back on the harm being done to the ozone, which is causing global warming, supposedly. So
the solution to global warming
is to charge
is-
the people who are
to tax someone for an animal's normal bodily functions that contribute almost nothing, if anything at all, to global warming.
Yep. Makes you feel good, doesn't it?
This is where I need the dude that's in grayscale with the suit, with the hand up in the air, to just walk by and be like, just kill yourself.
Oh, the other one. The other tax that we got going on. The transient occupancy tax. Transient occupancy tax is charged in California when occupying a room or rooms or other living space in a hotel, inn, tourist home or house, motel, or other lodging defined below, which is camping sites, space at a campground or a recreational vehicle park, unless the stay is for a period of more than 31 days.
What?
So if you go stay somewhere for a short amount of time and you're paying for it, you're also paying taxes on that.
Why?
State of California is broke, haven't you heard?
Why?
Because they can't stop spending.
I'll beat some people.
How's your head feel?
Not really that great right now.
No, not at all.
I might be prone to violent tendencies towards Californian politicians.
I'd keep that to yourself before they really screw you over. Oh, it's 9% in Modesto. So if you stay at the any hotel, not just the DoubleTree, but if you stay at any hotel, you're paying 9% more to the city.
Woosa. Woosa.
So basically, the moral of the story is that government wants your money, and they will find any way to tax you that they can, because they feel that your money is actually their money.
So, if they feel that our money is actually their money, why don't they do away with all the taxation and the ducking and dodging and the hiding and the pretending and all the facades and just go door to door with shotguns and start taking people's money?
Well, because that wouldn't be very nice, and that would show it for the force that it really is, even though we're putting people in cages because they don't pay.
Rage, fury, irritation, humiliation.
Yay, government! They're gonna save us all. Let me pull up that article. TurboTax article. TurboTax. 10 strange but no. Those are tax deductions. Those are interesting, so we can talk about that a little bit. This is what I was thinking of, though. 7 crazy taxes from the U.S. and abroad. 1. The jock tax.
Frack is a jock tax.
What began as a bitter blood, I don't know what that means, has turned into a lucrative source of state funding, as taxing jocks, performers, and other entertainers can generate serious revenue. California imposed the jock tax back in 1991 after the Chicago Bulls beat the LA Lakers in the finals. The next time His Airness, Michael Jordan, played in Los Angeles, the money he made on those games was officially subjected to the California state income tax. Since that time, half of the states in the union have adopted a jock tax, taking a cut from high-paid heroes, I'd take the word hero lightly, and putting the added resources to work for local communities. This is once again another example of, he makes more money than me, he should pay more.
No.
2. Window tax. Although it sounds ludicrous, the window tax of 1696 was actually a relatively ingenious, well, for tax people, I'm sure, way of imposing an income tax on the rich without ever calling it that. Once again, we're trying to make other people pay more for taxes, to pay for my services. You make more money, you should be paying for my services. As ridiculous as that is, despite the fact that it ruins our economy. They have less money to invest, less money to expand businesses. No, you need to pay more. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. After England, Scotland, and Great Britain, in the 18th and 19th century, this tax on windows was actually meant as a tax on wealth, as people with more income generally live in nicer houses. And nice houses generally have more than 2 windows. While this tax directly led to the bricking up of many windows, it also eventually led to a fair and less arbitrary income tax that honed in. How is that fair? TurboTax is stupid as well. Here's what I was talking about before, the cow flatulence tax. Or you brought it up. Tokyo's scientists are trying to stop global warming 1 toot at a time.
Fail.
A key producer of methane, cow flatulence, is the leading cause of global warming. I don't think that's correct at all. Their slow digestion mixed with gas-producing diets of greens causing excessive methane buildup. The issue is compounded by slaughterhouses which store thousands of cows in one location, creating large clouds of methane. Neighbors and environmentalists frequently complain about the odor as well as the negative effects on air quality. Ireland and Denmark, along with other EU nations, have begun taxing cattle owners on cow flatulence. The byproduct of livestock, like cows, are responsible for approximately 18% of the greenhouse gases that are causing global warming. How is that the number one then? If it's 18%, that's a really small percentage, right?
I want to know something. If
What?
car exhaust creates greenhouse gases, how do cows outperform cars?
I don't know what you mean.
There's a continuity error here.
Well, yeah, we want to blame everything.
They used to say cars were the main causes, cars and factories were the main causes of greenhouse gases and global warming, and now it's cows and methane because, now everyone
You're
pays
paying for
taxes
that.
on-
Well, not you, because you don't get any cows from the EU or Japan, but the people are paying more for their food now. That's all that is. It's not accomplishing anything.
I swear, if they could, they would take people from little indigenous populations that have never been exposed to the rest of society, attempt to civilize them, give them a job just so that way they can make money and pay it to the government.
Sounds about right. Playing card tax.
What?
That's There's a reason why Alabama is not known for its casinos, and this tax may be it. Alabama is the only state in the union to issue a 10-cent playing card tax for a deck of cards purchased within the state. When compared to Nevada, a state that issues free decks of cards with every tax return filed, this tax seems quite silly. Nevertheless, Alabama citizens enjoy the revenue that is produced for highways and playgrounds. There is plenty of information on where an official playing card tax stamp can be purchased, but there is no explanation about the tax. So, how do I know that there is really tax revenue being generated? How do I know that the tax is going to what they say it's going to?
Well, haven't you heard? You should trust the government.
Yeah, you should blindly trust the government. Yeah, okay. That sounds like a great idea. We've seen how well that's worked out for us in the past decade, where our civil liberties have been eroded. Your freedom of speech has been trumped on more than one occasion.
Huh? What you say?
Your freedom of speech has been trumped on more than one occasion.
I can't hear you speaking.
You can't hear me?
No, you don't have a permit to speak.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, from free speech zones, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of, to the bill that passed Congress probably a year ago now that said that you cannot protest anywhere where someone is being protected by Secret Service. So if you protest outside the White House, they can arrest you and send you to jail. Wonderful. Do we still have freedom of speech in this country?
No.
No, go over there in that corner and say what you have to say, where no one can hear you and no one can know what you're saying. Yep, that's freedom of speech. It's like that thing on The Blaze TV. There was that little skit where they're trying to send this guy to the free speech zone, and the guy goes, "I thought those weren't real." And the guy said, "Well, they are, and you need to go there." And he says, "I thought the free speech zone was somewhere between Mexico and Canada." Yeah, that's what I always thought. Isn't that what you thought, Byron?
Yep.
Ah, my freedom of speech will not be infringed by some bureaucrat or by some cop who thinks I should shut my mouth. All right, number 5, blueberry tax.
What?
According to Maine, the production of wild blueberry, I don't know how that's production, but of wild blueberries is one of the most important agricultural industries in the state, making it necessary to protect it with a tax. Without a tax, the precious blueberries of Maine could be overharvested. The state of Maine gets a penny and a half per pound, keeping the blueberry business in check so that the plants are able to thrive. This separate cent is applied to every pound of blueberries sold on top of regular taxes. This doesn't make any sense to me because it would be smarter to own and harvest your own blueberries.
Yes.
And I would presume that that would circumvent their silly tax, which makes no sense.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So number 6, candy tax.
Oh boy.
Coming from Chicago, the candy tax has about as much to do with semantics as it does with chemistry. Who can blame them for taxing something irresistible? For example, candies prepared with flour like chocolate and ice cream count as food and are therefore taxed normally. Candy prepared without flour, such as hard candies and suckers, are labeled candy and therefore taxed an additional 5.25% merchandise rate. A similar rule holds true for soft drinks. The difference in soy levels, milk, or fruit juice in a beverage can make a difference of 5.2% at the cash register. Now, see, this is when Mark talked about this on Free Talk Live. What they brought up was the fact that Hershey's probably was lobbying to keep themselves from being a part of this tax. The milk and fruit juice companies were probably lobbying to keep themselves out of it. It's corporate cronyism. We shouldn't be taxed by it. We're really food. Like, but you should tax them because then people won't want to eat that candy. They'll want to eat our stuff. That's kind of how America works.
Fails. That fails horribly.
You want to know what the worst is?
What?
7. Google tax.
What?
The Culture Ministry, I don't even know what that means, but
Sounds
the
like the
Culture
UK.
Ministry of France determined taxing online advertisements such as those that appear on Google, Facebook, and Dig will accrue up to $29 million per annum. Microsoft, AOL, and Yahoo will also be subject to the tax. France is eager to use this revenue to support artists and online cultural information centers for citizens of France. According to 20 Minutes, President Nicolas Sarkozy is the pusher behind this revolutionary tax. I love how TurboTax is so excited about taxes. While it currently ranks...
TurboTax.
Yeah, anytime there's a screwy tax, it means they have a chance to take care of it for people, which means they make more money. Which is ridiculous. While it currently ranks on the global oddities list, it could be enacted worldwide. They want it enacted worldwide. Sarkozy, however, may just be playing out his vendetta with Google, as he has frequently complained that Google is depriving France of its culture and heritage by scanning French art for digital libraries. How is it depriving? It's releasing more of it to the world. These are the arguments of bureaucrats that I will never understand. We're releasing more information to the world, and we're giving more people the opportunity to see things that they never might have seen before, but we're depriving someone. I don't understand it.
Information is blasphemy. Deprivation of power.
Who is the kid who made RSS?
I don't know.
He recently killed himself.
I wonder why.
Well, that was because the judicial department was hounding him. They were going to make an example out of him for releasing public information, for downloading information that was available to the public to be mass distributed.
How can you... That doesn't make any sense. How can you be tried for releasing something that's already available to the public? How can you release something that's already available to the public anyway?
Well, the information was available, but you had to go to a specific place to get it, and it had to stay there for some reason, which
And
will
it's
never
not
make
public
sense.
information.
No, but anybody can get to it, so obviously it's public information.
I
Yeah,
disagree
that's
with
kind
this.
of the round logic that bureaucrats have. Kid's name Aaron Swartz, and he was being hounded because he did such terrible things like releasing public information. I was pretty depressed when I heard the kid commit suicide. That was
What did he release?
just scientific documents.
Really?
Yep.
What type of scientific documents?
You'll have to look it up.
I'll do that in the morning. I'm too tired to do that right now.
Aaron Swartz. This has been another episode of The Third Perspective, where we wield the first before the worst. I've been your host, Rob, and
Byron?
thank you and good night.
So why?